while the Mexican national team is playing in NFL stadiums, a U.S. men's national team have been playing in MLS stadiums, with much smaller capacity. And even still, sometimes they're not even sold out or have limited attendance.
Is the biggest issue facing U.S. soccer, and specifically the men's national team, the play on the field, or is it the lack of support in the stands? Prior to their 2-0 win against Japan, granted it was a B team, on September 9th, the U.S. national team had a 7-match winless streak against top 25 opponents. Mind you, the U.S. is ranked 15th, so we're not punching above our weight that much. While we were able to stop the bleeding on the field, there's bigger issues at hand here, and it comes down to ticket prices, match times, and just all of the other potential struggles, which Mauricio Pochettino, the head coach, even brought up after the loss to South Korea, and he pleaded for more Americans to come to the games. So how do we get more Americans to come to U.S. soccer games on the men's side? That topic and more on this episode of Finance of Football. I'm freelance journalist Michael LoRé.
And I'm the athletics sports writer Asli Pelit. Welcome to the show. Today, we're joined by Walter Franco, the principal and research director of Victus, an independent consulting firm based in Utah. He is a strategist, a storyteller at the intersection of sports, business, and culture. Walter has built a career helping brands and organizations navigate where the game meets the global stage, blending sharp analysis with a big picture vision, whether it's breaking down the economics behind the pitch or charting where the next opportunity is. Walter brings a thoughtful, fresh perspective you won't want to miss. Thank you so much for joining us, Walter. Welcome to the show.
Good to see you again, Michael. Good to see you for the first time.
Pleasure. Thanks for joining us.
And time really flies because we're almost like 10 months away from the World Cup. What do you think the biggest issue facing U.S. soccer to bring fans to support this team that unfortunately is not doing so well on the pitch these days?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a question that few have been able to really try to answer correctly. The reality is it's multifaceted, the problems that the U.S. men's national team have from an interest standpoint. They are in a very competitive landscape for eyeballs, with people with a lot of different attention for different sports. But more than that, the sport of soccer is probably, in the U.S., is probably the hardest sport for a property or a team or a national team to gain someone's loyalty because it's so fragmented. And we know that the United States is fragmented from a diversity standpoint. It truly is a melting pot. And, you have your mainstream multi-generation American who's, maybe soccer is their first sport or not, but that's one subset. And then you have, the Latino demographic. But even then you have various subsets there. You have first or second generation Mexicans that are probably in between following the Mexican national team or the U.S. men's national team. And then you have all the other countries of Latin America, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina. You have such a growing immigrants as well. The Venezuelan population growing pretty significantly over the last few years. And so they're not necessarily going to go for the U.S. men's national team. They're still going to draw back to where their roots are from, right? And then when you look at other immigration patterns, a lot of people from Asia, from Africa, from Eastern Europe. And so, again, you have really a soccer melting pot where you can count on tens of millions of soccer fans in the U.S., but each snippet has different loyalties from a national team standpoint.
Soccer is not the premier sport in this country. We see that, we understand that, it's American football, but it's growing, right? Like, we're not going to expect to have sellout crowds for every U.S. game. And if we do, there's going to be a ton of Moroccan fans, Colombian, Turkey, Guatemalan, South Korean, Mexican, right? Like, we've seen it in cities all around the country. And as much as it might pain a lot of people, especially in U.S. soccer, to see us playing these home games and technically be the away team, I think, if anything, it's a testament to the popularity of the sport in this country, and more importantly, the diversity that defines this country, right? We were founded by immigrants, and we have such an amazing, diverse population in this country, contrary to popular belief that some might not feel. but it's on full display every time the U.S. national team goes out and plays. And I think that should be celebrated almost more so than just, oh, there's not enough American fans in the stands. Like, let's a rising tide lifts all boats, and seeing soccer fans, regardless if they're Guatemalan, American, Mexican American, whatever it is, they're coming out and they're supporting this sport in this country. That's what I'm excited about, especially heading into the 2026 World Cup.
Yeah, that's a great point, Michael. And so I think from the U.S. men's national team standpoint, and something that to their credit they have been trying to do more is really at the grassroots level through their academies, through scouting, is to try to tap into those communities which for all intents and purposes, when you're talking about an immigrant population, they tend to be more on the underrepresented, underserved communities. And so that's where they're starting to try to get into identify talent and try to, for lack of a better word, switch allegiances. And that's happened. You have a lot of soccer players that have featured for the U.S. men's national team that their parents are from a different country. And so they resonate more with the U.S. men's national team, or they had good relationships with those coaches. And that's what led to it. But from an interest standpoint, I think that's kind of the biggest one that you have to think about. There's been a lot of also concern and complaints about the ticket prices. That's been huge. That's probably one of the other bigger ones. And what's interesting to see is, when you compare to the Mexican national team, which I think there's no argument here is the most popular national team in the U.S. Many people coin them, that's the true America's team. While the Mexican national team is playing in NFL stadiums, U.S. men's national team have been playing in MLS stadiums, which much smaller capacity. And even still, sometimes they're not even sold out or have limited attendance.
I think the topic that you put your finger on, like the ticket prices, accessibility for Americans, is like, I think Michael had some really good data to show how much they went up, which makes it so hard for a lot of people to, perhaps in this economy, access to it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I feel especially nowadays, I think, and this might have been from an Athletic article, so shout out to your colleagues there, Asli, but they had ticket prices for the 2002 cycle average at about $28, and by the time 2018 World Cup cycle rolled around, the one that we missed, famously, the U.S. men, the average price was about $97 and change. So obviously, things are more expensive over those last 16 years, just life in general, but especially with soccer. So Walter, I'd love your perspective on that balance of U.S. soccer trying to make money in terms of that revenue that they can then inject into, especially the grassroots system, but also not outpricing their fans, knowing that, again, times are tough. People are trying to save money. They might not want to go out. If you have a family of four, that's going to cost a lot of money to go watch the national team. And another point too, I know, we saw in New Jersey and Harrison when we played South Korea, there were more South Korean fans than there were U.S. fans. And I know Pochettino came out and said, like, hey, guys, we want you to come. But South Korea is only here once in a while. The U.S. is here all the time. So would love your thoughts on that balance of making the game accessible and appealing to not only U.S. fans, but fans of these international teams, because we are such a melting pot.
Yeah, that's a great point, Michael. And again, I think you kind of hit it on the head as well, is that it's not just a soccer thing. I think it's, if you look at sports in general, ticket prices for everything are rising, right? And it's becoming very unaffordable for family. You mentioned a family of four, even go to a baseball game, just to get into a baseball stadium, you're going to pay, at least $40, $50 per person. And then, aside from that, parking, potentially food if they want, which food is, with the exception of Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, most stadiums are charging an arm and a leg just for chicken tenders or popcorn. And so it becomes, as a family of 4 or 5, you're thinking, okay, can I watch this comfortably on the TV, or do I really want to go through the headache of going to a game? Especially, perception wise, as I kind of pointed to, if the team isn't performing, is it worth my time for that entertainment? At the end of the day, U.S. Soccer, Soccer United Marketing, and their work with Mexican national team, they do a lot of in-house research to really test the market on what that looks like. And so now what's happening too is, just like in other sports, it's not just about the game day revenues for the regular ticket prices. It's also about the package that they're able to sell to sponsors with premium seats, with suites. That's where they're making a huge chunk of their money, and also too through corporate sponsorships as well, and through TV rights agreements. And so on a macro level, they're still doing well. On a micro level, in terms of just creating the right environment and creating that loyalty and making it a positive experience for the soccer fan, that's still where it's lacking. If it was something, in my opinion, that they were seriously concerned about, they probably would have made changes a long time ago. But as you noted, they keep increasing, and I think that's just a reality of what we're going to see. So it's going to be interesting to see by the next World Cup cycle where ticket prices will be then, right? And see if there's any fatigue from the last few years, or if it's just going to keep skyrocketing with inflation and interest rates and everything like that.
I mean, you're going to see a big scar on my back because I'm going to be selling one of my kidneys to go see one of the games at this rate, right?
Oh, wait. The fact that you said that was literally the thought in my mind, that I wanted to come in here and thought I was so clever and unique saying that. And here you are taking the words.
That's why we're friends.
This is why we have this podcast.
Someone needs to create like a kidney market index like on the side and just see if black market kidney sales have increased in the lead up to the World Cup.
Seriously though, I don't know, Michael, you were at the website trying to buy tickets for the World Cup. By the way, did you succeed?
Well, let me see how many kidneys I have left. No, at this point, it was just a pre-sale for Visa card holders.
I was able to get in today too. It took a few hours, but I was able to get in as well. So
I have another question. I think when we talk about valuations, always, Walter, when we think about what makes, sports such an important asset class, we always talk about scarcity value. And because US is going to be in this World Cup no matter what, is there also like a factor and everybody's like, well, I'm just going to see them at home instead of spending this, money, a lot of money for a friendly game. I may as well save everything I can and try to buy this ticket and just see them on the global stage.
I think definitely there's that balance is, do I go to these games, these friendly games that are in the run up, or do I go to the actual World Cup where I can potentially see, the US against Cristiano Ronaldo or Messi in a high stakes game, right? And I think generally speaking, over the last maybe 10 years, I think in certain sectors you're starting to see friendly fatigue, not just at the national team level, but also at the club team, where you used to, when MLS was still growing, you would see them play, multiple friendlies, international friendlies throughout the year. And now it's maybe once a year. You'll see the All-Star game maybe sometimes. And so I think that's a factor. But, the World Cup is what you term a mega event, just like the Olympics, Summer and Winter Olympics. So no matter what's going on, you're going to tune in either on TV or try to go in person because of the experience, the ambiance. And so I think that just raises the interest level to just another stratosphere, right? And so I think people are definitely thinking that. I think the hardcores, the hardcore fans are going to try to do both. But I think the more casual fans that say, hey, there's an opportunity to go to the World Cup, like, let's do that. Let's save our money, especially with how ticket prices have been revealed. I think there's kind of a little mix of that.
To kind of play devil's advocate, I think if anything, if you're a casual fan, you're going to want to go to the game that is more cost effective, that doesn't have, of course, US versus Japan or South Korea in a friendly, it doesn't matter who wins and loses, but it is cheaper for that family of four to go to than the once in a lifetime potentially going to a World Cup. We just talked about, we spent hours waiting, just to get a pre-sale to potentially buy tickets. And we don't even know how much those are going to be. So it's like, I think, is there an oversaturation? Like, maybe not. But like, I went to the Manchester United, Premier League Summer Series. They did a double.
You wouldn't miss that for nothing. You're a big fan. You're not a casual fan in that case.
No, but what I'm saying is there was still 55,000 people at that stadium for a match that meant absolutely nothing, right? But Manchester United is such a brand. The club has struggled to no end in the last decade, but people will still go out and they will spend money to see them play in a meaningless game. The U.S. national team, the onus is on them to have a good product on the field to justify people spending money, whether it's $50 or $500, to come and watch them play. Why do I want to go and watch our national team lose and lose and lose? Before they beat Japan, they lost 7 straight matches against top 25 opponents. Mind you, the U.S. national team is ranked 15th. So it's not like we're punching above our weight so much. The onus is on the national team to give a product that is worth spending the money on. So for Pochettino and all these other people to come out and say, oh, come support us, give us a reason to. I would have loved to go to that game the other night, but why am I going to go waste my time and sit on the path and on the subway and do all this to watch them lose, and then I go home and I go, well, great, now my weekend is ruined because I wasted time, money, and effort to watch this team go out and get embarrassed. So I do get both sides of the coin, but the number one thing is the product on the field.
One good news, though, you told me that American Outlaws, the largest supporter group for the U.S. men's and women's national team, did announce a price cap of $45 plus fees, which fees can be, by the way, ridiculous. We all know that, for all U.S. soccer hosted matches through October 2026. So that's a little bit of good news. And I thought about that as like, here's a way to take the casual fans and bring them to the super fan category. Because I feel like if you're part of US Outlaw, that means that requires you to show up at certain games, right? You know, they're not offering this $45 deal to everyone. I cannot just be like, hey, I'm a US Outlaw. Now, part of it, like you have to probably show skin in the game and show up for these things and scream your lungs out, support your team. So we'll see whether or not that will actually bring more people to the stands. But at least I thought that was some kind of piece of good news for men's national team to see more people on the stands. I've been to a lot of U.S. women's national team games this past summer, a lot of frenzies that I was covering, and it was packed, guys. It was incredibly more, popular compared to the men's side.
That's just American sports culture. We want to see winners, right? And so the U.S. women's national team, they have that reputation. They're the standard. They're elite. They have the president winning multiple World Cup titles. The U.S. men's national team doesn't. I think you would definitely see a change in the narrative if the U.S. men's national team were consistently, top 8, top 4 in the World Cup, and you give them a reason to say, hey, this might be our World Cup, this might be our year. But because you haven't seen success on the pitch internationally as you'd want to, it makes you question, are we really seeing the best on the field? Is it worth my time to support this? And so from a fan's perspective, you can definitely see that. And then, in the inverse, as you mentioned, Asla, with the U.S. women's national team, that every year they're going to be a contender and a candidate.
Predictions. What do you think is going to happen in 2026? Who has the best chance to get out of the group and actually, demonstrate strength on the pitch out of the 3 host nations?
I honestly think the U.S. and Mexico stand a very good chance of getting out of the group at minimum. And there's 2 reasons. They're both going to be playing their first matches at home on home soil, which is a tremendous advantage. And the fact that now that the World Cup has been expanded to 48 teams, you're going to get some dilution of talent across the board. So you could, the U.S. and Mexico, by luck of the draw, when they do the draw in December, you could get in a very good position where you might be the strongest out of the 3 other teams, right? They might not have to worry about being in a group of death. And so I think that gives them a chance. I think, again, their next round, if they get out of the group phase, again, would be a home match. And so if you have the right support, I think in the case of the U.S., again, being a mega event, you're going to get a lot of U.S. support in all their games, I think, because people, even casuals, are going to want to go to support. So I predict conservatively right now that both Mexico and the U.S. will get out of their group with the assumption that they get a favorable draw. But in the case of Mexico, they've kind of been doomed, and that's as far as they get after that. And so the U.S., though, if everything falls into place like I think they're hoping, potentially, but the way that they've been playing recently, though, I think there would be cause for concern as well.
Amazing. Well, we'll see. But if it was between Mexico and U.S., what does your heart say?
Mexico.
Okay, vamos, viva Mexico. Thank you so much for being with us. We can wait to have you on the show again.
Appreciate it.
Ciao.
So you look like a watermelon or a strawberry or something like that.
You want to do that? I love it. Okay.
And here I look like a blueberry, so it's fine.
Finance of Football comes to you from the Frequency Machine Podcast Network. Hit us up on social on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube for more football business and our enlightened opinions. This episode was produced by co-hosts Asa Pelit and Michael LoRé. It was edited by Ryan Hammond. Mixing and mastering by Julian Kwasniewski. Our theme music is by Hatamet Tsunami. Our show is executive produced by Stacy Book and Avi Glajanski for Frequency Machine. Find more about Finance of Football at frequencymachine.com. Follow us on YouTube at Finance of Football and listen anywhere you get podcasts. Please like and subscribe. Help us reach more people. We love you for it.